Hi, welcome back to the shop. I'm Chad Kennedy, and I'm going to show you a little today around my shop, especially the forging area. Last time I showed you the tour of the shop and just kind of hit the high spots, and today I'm going to go into detail on the forging area of the shop, the tools that I use, and hopefully it'll help you in deciding what you need if you're getting into bladesmithing or blacksmithing. Alright, so what we've got here is a 250-pound Fisher anvil. This one is a 1920 model. I like that about these Fishers, that they tell you what year they were very plainly. You can see that it's got a lot of wear on it. And really for bladesmithing, you don't need a huge area on an anvil that's flat, and you don't have to have all of the corners perfect. I've just got a few areas here where I've got good corners on this thing, and really this serves me really well for what I need to do as a bladesmith. I don't do a lot of forging outside of making anything with a blade on it, whether it's a knife or sword or tomahawk or anything like that. So this serves me really well. I started off with a little 75-pound anvil, and it worked pretty good. It got me started, and that was before the prices of anvils skyrocketed. You know, if anything that you can get for starting out is great. It's one thing that I do suggest. I tried finding a stump and tried going that route, and I've seen anvils that were on metal stands, and I don't recommend those at all. This is what I recommend right here, and this is just basically 2x4s stacked, and a lot of guys recommend that where your knuckles are, that's where your anvil is. This one's just a hair higher than that, but this is how I like it. And then what I've done from there, for all my hammers and my tongs, is I just built an angle iron frame to sit down on the top of this block, and then come out from there with some round bar, and allowed myself to hang all my hammers right here. Another thing is on your hammers. I don't use a whole lot, and I used to feel bad about it because, man, you know, you see old blacksmith shops that have, you know, a whole array of hammers, and I was like, man, I don't really use that many. And then I started not feeling so bad when I was watching Master Bladesmith Harvey Dean talk one time about forging, and he basically brought out, I think it might have been a 4-pound. This is a 3-pound sledgehammer from, I think there's a Craftsman actually. He's like, this is what I started with, and it works really good. And I was like, man, no, that's awesome. That didn't make me feel so bad anymore. But I do use all of these hammers right here almost every time I forge, especially if I forge Damascus. So this one is kind of funny, I know, but this is a 8-pound sledge with a short hammer, short handle on it. I use this a lot for when I set my stamp on my blade, and then I'll also use this sometimes, either this one or this other 8-pound. Actually, no, this is a 6-pound that I cut down. You can see you can make hammers a lot faster by cutting down sledgehammers into the shape that you want instead of forging them. I know forging them's cool and everything, but if you're just starting out, get a #1 tip on your torch and do what you need to do. Then I've got a 3-pound and a 2-pound, and these are the two that I use the most. This 2-pound is actually the one I use the most. I know, you know, like Joe Kiesler, he likes to use a 6-pound to forge. But these were my granddad's hammers, and I really like the way they handle. Then here's another. This is a double cross peen, which is I've got one for drawing out, and then one, you know, for fullering, for widening things out, and so I can just flip it over whichever way that I want. And you see it's at a kind of a cross peen, because when you're holding your steel at an angle like this off to your side, well, then this needs to be at an angle. If it's straight, well, then you have to hold your hammer kind of out here, and so you can keep it closer to you if you have that kind of angled cross peen on it. And then here's the same thing, but with just a sledge. And I actually started going to this one more than I did this one, just because I like being able to draw it out and then flip it over and kind of flatten things up a little bit. But those are the 6 hammers that I use the most of. Other things that I've got here, I've got tongs, and these are, some of them I made, not forged actually. I'm better with a torch than I am with a hammer, as far as forging things out. And so these are actually been cut out, but for 1 inch, 1.5 inch stock, just both of those are using a piece of square tubing for the jaws. Don't use a lot of these. I use these pickup tongs, which a lot of guys use a lot of. Here's another tool. Let me clean this off a minute, and I'll show you another forging tool that doesn't seem like everybody uses, but and to me it's super handy. And that's this tool for your plunge lines. And this is all made out of mild steel, but whenever I get ready to set my plunge lines up by my ricasso, I'll put it in there, and you can see there's a gap here, and so the spine of the knife goes up in here, and then out towards the edge right here, and I'll just mark the edge. You can, if you don't want to build something, you can use your tongue handles and do the same thing. But that's real handy. Cut-off tool, use that some. Not every time, but and that pretty much does it. Brush for Damascus, and I'll use this tool whenever I'm drawing out my tang. This does the same thing as the plunge line tool. This will mark where I want to start my tang, and then I'll draw it out from there, usually on the power hammer or the hydraulic press. All right, so the next thing, let me talk about my forges here for a second. This is a Venturi style double burner forge. You can obviously tell it's homemade or shop made, whatever you want to call it. But it's a piece of 12-inch pipe. It has more refractory than it probably needs, about 4 inches there. But this thing works really great. Let's fire it up for a second, just so you can see the inside of it. But it's nice. Gotta turn away now. It's real nice being able to switch back between the burners, or have both of them going and then switch just down to one, and be able with this needle valve to really dial it down if you need to, especially when you're doing your normalizing. And a lot of times I'll normalize in the forge rather than in my oven, just because I've done it a lot more and it's kind of easy. And if you're forging a lot already, why not? So this also has an adjustable arm that comes out here, so when you're using larger stock, that you can have something to kind of to hold it out there. Whereas if you didn't, it's going to be angled up like that because of the weight. So that's real handy. That's just built out of 3/4 square tubing, going up inside 1 inch square tubing. Also have a place to hang things here. When I'm forging Damascus, a lot of times your billet will get real heavy. So this is just kind of a hook with a counterweight, and you can stick that on the handle that's welded onto your billet of Damascus, and that'll keep it from wanting to sink down in there. That's super handy. But anyway, this is my air injected forge. I got a quick connect here for my propane, and then grease cert for my inlet on my gas, obviously with the ball shaved off of the end of it. And then a valve right here. This is backside of shop vac is my air inlet, and that's worked real good. I mean, I've run this thing hundreds of hours and not ever burned it up or anything yet. So that's been handy, kind of two tools in one. The next two things are my hammer and my hydraulic press. All right, on the hammer here, this is a Champion number 0 power hammer. This was originally used, well, I don't know about originally, but the last person that was using this was using it for wire cable, and it had rounding dies in it, and they would braid the cable back up inside itself and then run it through this hammer to smooth the cable out. Before that, I think that this came out of a machine shop in Burke Burnett, Texas. I believe that it was the Riley Machine Shop. So if anybody out there knows anything about that, if I could ever find old pictures of this hammer, that'd be awesome. But I believe this is the smallest hammer that Champion made, and it's really cool. You can see up here, it still has the old wooden shivs. It's got a wooden jack shaft, and then well, the shaft isn't wooden, obviously, steel shaft with wooden shivs, and then the motor is like a 3/4 horse old dude. It's got oilers on it and everything, but also with a wooden shiv on it. Still run the transmission belts, 2-inch transmission belts. Works great, no broken springs. It's really not worn out much. It's got the smallest amount of play in the Babbitt bearings. But overall, I mean, this thing is in incredible shape, especially for being used as much as it was used. I mean, for the last, well, before I got it, the last 15 years or so, they didn't use it a whole lot. But before that, you know, it was they used the heck out of it. So let's see, patent date on this thing is 1902. So there's no telling how old it actually is. But anyway, the next thing, which I built this about 1.5 years ago. This is my forging press. This is about a 25 ton. It might be 26. I can't remember. I had to figure it again. 26 ton forging press, and this was a cool build for me because I really didn't know what I was doing. I didn't have any plans for it or anything. Just going with what I knew and what I thought I knew. But what I started with is this piece here, and this is a 5-inch cylinder. I think it's a 5x18, looks like. Cylinder off the rippers on a maintainer, okay? And so I was given this, and so I built the whole machine around this. So what we got next is a 3-horse motor, and hooked up to 220, and then I wanted this to be, I don't even know what you call it, just like, you know, just a one-armed press. You see the kind that are like the H-frame that's got another beam right here, and those work great, I'm sure, but I liked the ability to be able to move all the way around this at any angle that I wanted to, and not this beam not to get in the way. It's also got this base, which is removable, but it's bolted down. But I will say that I'm gonna weld that down eventually when I get around to it, because whenever you really press on this thing, it can flex a little bit. And this is really heavy beam. This isn't like some of the lighter beam. I've seen people build presses out of like this 1/4 inch or 3/8 beam, and there's no way I would do that, because I've seen beam crack, you know, under way less pressure. So the heavier the better on that, as far as I'm concerned. I built the hydraulic tank into the side of this beam, just this box right here. Used the beam, so kind of saved a little bit of steel there, even though this is pretty thin, like 10 gauge, something like that. But this capacity needs to, I think, be about 1.5 times of what this is. I mean, the more volume you have on your tank, really the better as far as keeping fluid cool, because this will get hot on mine, especially after, you know, several hours of forging. This is a, let's see, I think a 13 gallon per minute pump. This pump and this valve are the only things on this machine that I bought. Like $200 plus having the hoses made. But this is this valve. I believe they sell these and market these as log splitter valve and pump combos. So the other thing that I did on this that's not on all the presses that you see is I made this foot pedal, and it worked out where I was able to hook up a spring down here, and you can see, if you look here, I've got several different holes because I was trying out with the tension, because when I was press and let up, the weight of everything would kick it into the up position, the valve into the up position or release or whatever you want to call it. Not really a release, but it switched the current of the fluid the other way. Okay, and then there was enough weight still in it where I can press just a little bit and put it in the neutral position. So I can be forging along just with my foot and keep both hands on the work at the same time. Let me show you how it works. Going us first. So you see, just when you let off the pedal all the way, it goes all the way up. But if you just want to stop it, you stop it. So that worked out really good. I mean, that was another one of those things I was just flying by the seat of my pants, didn't know if it was going to work or not, and it worked out great. So overall, it's a great press, and it's done what I want it to. You can slide these dies in and out. It's just got a little pin or a bolt there, making sure they don't move around. But I've got kind of my flattening die and my drawing out dies on the same setup, and then I've built cutting tools for. I'll use that to split my feather Damascus. And then I've got some squaring dies, but that's really it on the forging side. Except one last thing I want to show you is my my quench tank. The quench tank isn't something that people talk about a whole lot. This idea I got off like a DVD of Ed Caffrey, I think, and he showed his quench tank when he was showing how to forge a basic knife. But anyway, you can see I've got this set up on one of these little electric griddles, and I don't know what other people use. I'm not real sure if they heat it up with a flame or what, but this thing is awesome. I can crank it up to like 400 or whatever it goes up to, and just monitor the temperature, and with my little trusty probe there, and when it gets up, I'll just unplug it, and I can also it's got this tray in here that I welded these 4 little feet on, and so I can screw these out, which they get a little gummed up after time, a long time, several years, but and set the depth of the quench that I want. Or I can, do a full quench in this if it's a smaller blade, and I built me another tank back there for larger blades. But what I'll do is I'll quench these, my carbon steel blades. If I'm doing an edge quench, I'll quench them in there, and rock it back and forth a few times, and then after the spine and everything has cooled down some, then I'll just stick it down in the oil and let it soak until it's come up. The whole blade is down to 130, 135, something like that. So that's what my oil's at. But other than that, everything's there's lots of little odds and ends, but this is when I'm forging, I'm pretty much staying right here. The only other place I'm going to go is to this vise here if I'm letting some Damascus cool down, and I've got my leg vise over there that I'll use a lot, and the torch if for some reason I need a torch. But that's pretty much it on forging. And y'all, if you'll subscribe to my page, I'd appreciate it, and that way you'll get to see when I put up my next video. And we'll be doing that soon, and we'll probably go over to the finishing area and show you some of the tools and a lot of homemade stuff if you're on a budget. But anyway, appreciate your comments, appreciate you watching all the way through, and we'll see you next time.